Welcome to our program, Coach to Coach. Today's guest is Fiona Pimentel. Fiona is the courageous coach. She aims to spread peace and happiness in the world by helping people to have better personal and professional relationships. Fiona began practicing coaching in 2021. She works with individuals, couples, and groups, supporting women and men who want to be seen, heard, and to get their needs met through clearer, healthier communication. Thanks for joining us today, Fiona. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Coach to Coach.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great. The way I like to start these off is to ask what first sparked your interest in coaching?
The thing that sparked my interest in coaching, it depends how far back I go, because my
Mm,
mother was a marriage counselor. And so I grew up in a house full of books about relationships and things like that.
mm,
And so I started, I think I read my first kind of self-development book when I was about 18. And
mm,
in fact, I'm not even sure if I read the whole thing. I think I just might have just read the beginning of it, the first chapter or something. But it had an impact on me. And um, and then I really got into reading a lot of stuff when my fourth child was born. And I was working part-time in the mornings, and then all afternoon I would just read and read and read. And I joined a non-fiction reading book club.
mm.
And every single book that I read was just like it was just like blowing my mind until I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, this isn't blowing my mind anymore because they're all saying something similar to each other.
Yeah.
um, and then the pandemic happened, and the club stopped. um, but I had issues with my own relationship.
Mm,
um, and so that was really what motivated me to learn about relationships.
mm,
And it was also when I read a book, a very famous book, Tony Robbins's Awaken the Giant Within.
mm. Yeah.
And someone had given it to me 10 years previously, and I hadn't read it. I put it on a shelf. And then I had a water skiing accident, and I had to lie on a sofa for a month. I
Mm,
thought, well, this is the perfect time to tackle that big book,
yeah.
you know, because I knew you weren't meant to just read it from cover to cover. You were supposed to take notes and really take your time, you know. So from there, I took up all the things that I had wanted to take up, like singing and dancing and acting and writing and
Mm,
art. And that was it. But I also had the thought, well, a lot of the stuff that he's saying, I figured out on my own. This is all just common sense. Maybe I could be a coach, albeit not with the energy of Tony Robbins, but um, um, and I started thinking about, I just started to get more and more of a sense of, I want to do retreats for couples. And I felt called, it felt like
mm,
a calling to do retreats for couples. So my husband and I bought in 2017 a beautiful property called Sea Orchard Retreat with 4 cottages. And he immediately said to me, well, I need an ROI right now. I can't just buy it and not get anything back. So I was like, okay, let's just get a booking agent. So we've had tourists in there
mm.
sort of all the time, and people bring their retreats. They bring yoga retreats or church retreats or whatever, any kind of retreat.
Right.
And but I haven't really been doing the retreats myself yet. I started, but then I had 3 bereavements.
Mm.
Uh, my dad had died in 2017, and then in 2019, my sister and mother died 5 weeks apart
Oh,
from each
wow.
other. And so I was just like, I had too much to do, just sorting out their stuff and selling
Of course.
parents' house and all this kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then the pandemic happened, it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll wait until I've got a good, solid coaching business. Because I
Mm,
took up coaching from the pandemic
mm,
because our airport closed for 18 months.
mm.
So I needed an online job.
Yeah.
So I was managing that property. And then I just kind of handed that over to someone else to manage more or less. I still do bits for it, but she does most of the work. And I've just been concentrating on coaching ever since.
It's awesome.
It's a
Um,
very long answer to your
yeah.
question.
No. My condolences on your losses, by the way.
Thank you.
I know it's been a number of years, but yeah, it's quite an impact on our lives when we lose loved ones.
Hmm.
My dad passed a year ago, April 10th, and my mom passed just before the pandemic. So it's
Yeah.
been an interesting transition in my life too. So,
Sorry for your
um, sorry.
sorry for your
Oh,
losses.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. My parents were Salvation Army ministers, so
Oh,
in the army they call it promoted to glory, which I think is the probably the nicest way you can phrase
yeah.
losing somebody. So it's
Yeah, yeah. So the
um,
Salvation Army, my mum always supported them
mm,
because when she was a refugee in World War II, they left, she was living in Singapore,
mm,
and they got on a boat to Australia after Singapore was invaded. And it was the Salvation Army that just came and gave them clothes and everything because they came with nothing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they looked after them.
yeah. They do amazing work all over the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is funny. I mean, you mentioned in your story, um, you know, you didn't say following your mother's footsteps, but you mentioned that she was a relationship therapist. And, you know, I never in my craziest dreams would have thought growing up that, you know, because another word you could say like for the work my parents did was they were coaches. I mean, their ministry was mostly in community mental health appointments across Canada. They weren't running like a church, they were running programs and things. So it's never my wildest dreams that I think I'd be, you know, following in their footsteps. And here I am in a
Well,
way.
I kind of avoided. I was trying to avoid like turning into my mother,
Yeah, yeah, me
what she
too, me
done, but
too.
I just ended up doing something very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
And I
really
don't
curious.
just work with couples, though. I do work
Yeah,
with individuals as well on anything, but often it just falls back down to relationships,
yeah, yeah,
things like that.
absolutely. Well, it's a great segue into learning more about your practice. You know, you just mentioned working with couples. I'm curious how you work. Like, are there modalities or just, you know, paint us a picture of how it is that what it's like to work with you.
So for couples, it's different from my other coaching. With couples, first of all, I give each partner a free session.
Mm,
Then I give them a session, a free session together. And then if we all want to work together, then we go for it. And it's all working the three of us together.
mm,
Except if there's some kind of issue that somebody has to bring up that they don't want to say in front of their spouse yet. Um, and I say yet because I don't, I'm not going to keep secrets from the spouse. That's not
yeah.
how you build a relationship, right? Um, and it's based, well, my kind of initial training on this was with the Gottman Institute.
Mm,
So it's things like, how to have a healthy argument, and just giving them skills that no one gives you in life. If you've been brought up in a family where everybody's shouting at each other or something like that, there's no way you're just going to know how to do it
mm,
just kind of by yourself. You need some guidance. Um, and I'm also influenced by the Relationship Handbook by George Pransky,
mm,
which is more about, well, you don't have to talk about everything, just go and spend some time together and actually enjoy each other's company. Because I think I used to believe that you had to talk about issues, everything had to be out on the open, and you had to talk about it. It's like, let's just go for a walk without having a heavy conversation, or let's just go for dinner or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. My wife and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary this July,
Ooh,
and we've had a dog for the last 12 and a half years. It was like walking the dog together is kind of like our, I don't know, relationship space. Sometimes we you know talk things through on a walk, but more often than not, it's just silently walking the dog together. Like it's a
that's
very
together,
cool
yeah.
bonding
Mm.
experience. Not something I would have expected out of having a dog when I got him.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do the same actually. We have a dog. We try and walk her, like on the weekends, we'll walk her
Mm,
in the morning and the evening together, both days. And then during the week, now I'm sort of I've managed to convince my husband to come out for a short walk before bedtime,
yeah,
because before he was too tired, but he's seeing the benefits of that as well. So
yeah.
nice.
Another thing I'm really curious about is your um, moniker, the courageous coach.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if you can give us the story behind that and how that's playing out in the world for you.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of fear, and courage is doing something when you're frightened. It's not having no fear, right?
Mm,
And I'll just little kind of tangent. I was encouraged to read the book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
mm,
When I heard that title, it totally blew my mind. It's just like just looking at that title changed my life. And then I read the book, but I read it impatiently because I was like, tell me
mm.
something new. You had me at Feel, you had me at the title.
Yeah.
And so but it just yeah, it really impacted me. And so the thing about courage is I decided when I became a coach, I was like, oh, there's things that I should be doing, to create clients and things like that.
Mm,
And I was too frightened to do them. So I said, okay, let me just do something, let me practice doing things that are frightening. And at the time, I was frightened of doing Facebook Lives.
mm,
So I said, I'm going to do these as a series of Facebook Lives, 10 weeks, once a week. So I started with the first thing was jumping off a rock into the sea.
mm,
And, if you see the video, it's really not that high. But I had always been really scared to do it, even though my kids had done it loads of times and this kind of thing.
mm.
And from the video, you can see that I took absolutely ages to get into the water. I was like doing it almost like, no, holding myself back and then doing it.
Yeah.
And eventually I jumped in. And so I did this every week. And then on one of the last ones, I was just like, oh, what am I going to do this week? I can't think of anything. So I said, okay, well, I remember this series that I used to watch on British TV called It Ain't Half Hot Mum. And it was about these soldiers in India. It was a comedy. And there was this one guy who had a tattoo, and his friend said, what does your tattoo say? And he said, oh, I don't know. So they got a magnifying glass and they looked at it and it said, he cried like a baby. And so I always had the idea that, having a tattoo would be a scary and
Mm,
painful thing. So I went along,
nice.
got this tattoo.
Good for you.
I branded myself. So from then on, I was the courageous coach.
Mm.
And I
Yeah, there's
called
no
that
going back after that.
right. Yeah. And people have said to me, do you regret that? And I'm like, no, why would I regret courage? That's
Yeah.
regret courage. So I called that series Cowardly to Courageous.
Mm,
And people were not necessarily commenting, or some people were commenting and liking whatever. But when I went back to the UK for my summer holiday, my summer vacation,
mm,
um, relatives and friends were saying, "Oh, I've been watching you. Are you doing any more of these these videos, these courageous videos?" You know, um, so so I was like, "Oh, people are taking notice, even if they're not commenting."
yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. That's happened to me a lot too when you talk to people online. It's as if, am I just sending this out into the ether? No one's seeing it.
Yeah.
And then you run into people or have conversations with people that you're connected to online, and they say, "Oh yeah, I've been following your stuff," and you're like, "Well, yeah, would you mind throwing me a like or a comment every now and then?"
Let me know.
Yeah,
Not just talking to myself.
yeah. Well, that's great, and I love what you said too about you know, courage is in the absence of fear. It's in
Yeah.
that title of the book, "Feel fear and do it anyway." It's
Yeah.
yeah, a very powerful mind shift for a lot of people because
Yeah.
you know,
And as you take the action,
mm,
you be I guess that's the courage. And then you
yeah,
do become more confident and you do lose the fear.
yeah,
It's only kind of it's like climbing stairs. It's only when you get to the next step that you get a bit more fear because, well, you've done this.
yeah,
Like, for example, with singing, the first time I sang in public was in church and I sang and then I went back to my seat and I started crying just
mm,
from the sheer kind of relief of having done it.
yeah,
And after like more recently, for example, in the pandemic, I was so used to singing in church that Even when the screen where I was reading the words stopped working, I
Mm,
just took my microphone, walked over to where the keyboard player was, and just knelt down on the floor next to him because he was on a very low stool.
mm,
And I kind of read over his shoulder, read the words, and then his keyboard stopped working. So I was singing a cappella, kneeling on
mm,
the floor, singing and just completely calm, as if it was
yeah.
the most normal thing in the world. And and I realized, gosh, I wouldn't have been able to do this a few years ago.
Mm,
But if you put me in, I don't know, you know, some other environment, I might be very nervous.
yeah.
But that's the environment that I've done so many times that it doesn't, I'm not in the slightest bit nervous.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm not a singer, but in my old career, I used to have to do public speaking quite a bit.
Mm.
And I was quite fine doing it. But the 5 minutes leading up to when I was supposed to get on the stage, my whole system would be freaking out basically.
Yeah.
And but then as soon as you got up there and the lights were on you, it generally always went. It was fine.
Yeah. I do Toastmasters. I'm a member of Toastmasters.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I remember this one speech that I gave. I did more of a theatrical performance.
Mm,
Knew I was slightly bending the rules because that's not really what Toastmasters is about. You're meant to give a speech.
yeah.
And so I was so nervous beforehand that I was just like jumping up and down and running around the corridor.
Mm,
And the president was like, "What's going on?" Um, and then I did it, and my evaluator said, "Well, yeah, that wasn't really a speech, but that's okay. I'll pass you."
yeah. It's like a
But it was
monologue or something.
well, yeah. I
Like
mean,
from
it
a
was more
play.
like I was acting different
Yeah.
characters, and
Yeah.
I was literally like changing my hat to be a different character and things
Mm,
like that, putting on accents, and it was just
yeah.
like
Okay.
not at all a normal speech. So just doing that, doing something that was different,
Mm,
made me feel really nervous.
yeah. Yeah. I'm curious if you have any stories. I mean, they can either be from yourself or from some of your clients of how coaching has helped them, whether it's in the realm of relationships or courage or anything else.
Well, yes. So can I tell you about my modalities?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please do.
So after I did the relationship coaching,
Mm,
they call it couples therapy with the Gottman Institute. I also did something in certification in pure coaching for
mm,
insight. And then later I did a trauma-informed coaching course and an embodied processing course, which is to do with processing emotions that we keep in our bodies.
mm,
And so processing them through the body. And then I did a certification in NLP,
mm,
which is really about changing your thoughts. And I'm using a lot of visualization with that. The first time I tried that out, and I did like a combination of embodied processing followed by NLP. And the first time I tried that out, it was with a woman who said she'd been sexually abused. That was one of her issues. And the other was that her mother had left when she was very small.
mm,
And so I did it in two different sessions. We did one session about the mother leaving, and the next session was about the sexual abuse that went on for years.
mm,
And she had told me that she couldn't stop thinking about these things, even though they had happened years and years and years ago. And did a session each on those. And she said, I don't need to think about this ever again.
mm,
And she only coached with me for a month. And that was fine, and months later I went to her and I said, by the way, how are you on these things? Have they come back? Or she said, no, not at all. I'm absolutely fine. And
mm.
it just blew my mind because I was like, it was the first time I'd ever even tried it.
Yeah.
Since then, I do coach quite a lot of women who've had sexual abuse.
Mm,
And it's not like it's not something I put out there. But unfortunately, where I live, it's very prevalent.
mm,
And it kind of there's a lot of women, just surviving through this stuff, and they're just carrying this burden by themselves.
mm,
So it's like I help them to carry that burden,
yeah.
hopefully relieve them of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how um, like almost immediate things can resolve when you have an insight and see it
Yeah,
completely differently. Um,
it's extraordinary,
yeah.
really.
I mean, what occurred to me with your story is like the the same persistence that the trauma had for all these years with her, seeing it in this new way. That's just as can be just as persistent for the rest of her life. Like
Mm,
she doesn't have to regress or relapse or I don't know, whatever word you'd want to put on it.
yeah,
But yeah, it's amazing. And I mean that the you didn't use this word in your story, but I can see the courage, the this idea of courage kind of threading its way through you working with people who are dealing with traumas and very unpleasant experiences. Like it takes courage for them to seek out help
yeah,
and
absolutely.
courage
Yeah.
for you to put yourself out there to help them. So courage all around.
Yeah, and often, I might say, okay, well, if we work together for a year, what would you want to create?
Mm,
They'll say, well, let me just give you this background story, and they'll just tell me, like, just download everything,
yeah,
how it was growing up with their parents and all the abuse they've had. Some of them have been married
mm,
several times and kind of been abused
yeah,
by each husband, and because they are mostly women that I coach,
yeah,
and it's just like, wow, this is incredible. But then we move, we are able to move on and try and
mm,
create a future. Not
mm,
try, I mean, actually create the future.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I also love the way you've you know you're not locked into any one modality or way of working. It's kind of this combination of the NLP and the other stuff you mentioned that
Yeah.
um, and I suppose each client or each situation that you're coaching around, uh, you just find your way into what's most appropriate for those situations.
Yeah. Yeah. You sort of get a feel for what they need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
And it's a very safe space.
Mm,
So with the embodied processing, we do a lot of grounding first to make sure that they feel really, really safe. Yeah.
it's I've done a lot of my training with Jamie Smart, and he talks about when all this stuff starts bubbling up that people had kind of tamped down and guarded for years, and they start you know being with a coach or in a community where their system goes, oh, okay, it's safe now to let this stuff kind of
Yeah,
come through, and then all it wants to do is be felt and processed and let go. So having
exactly.
the right person with you to guide you through that and give you the support you need is very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And like in society, we're not supposed to cry and things like
Mm,
that. You
yeah.
know, I remember one time I was going around the supermarket and I got a call from a friend who said, somebody at your husband's law firm where he works has died in a car crash.
Mm,
It's not your husband, but I don't know who it is. So in my mind, I was going through all the possible people because she told me the location and
mm,
it was near a school. So I was thinking of who had children in that school.
yeah.
And while I was going around the supermarket, I was crying because I was like mourning each person individually because I didn't know which one to mourn.
Yeah.
And a friend saw me. She said, "You can't cry in the supermarket. Go home." You know,
Mm,
look, I need food. There's no food at home. I can't go home. You
yeah.
know. But it was just like there's such a shame. There's such a sense of shame
Yeah.
about having emotions and showing them. And people will start crying in a session with me and they'll apologize. And I'm like, no, 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 don't apologize.
Yeah.
All of you is welcome here. It's
Yeah.
good to cry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I see that a lot too. It's the this natural instinct to clamp down on the
Yeah,
release of emotion, probably because of, like you said, it's a conditioned lifetime
yeah,
expectation that's not okay.
yeah.
But
Big boys don't cry or
yeah,
big girls don't cry.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. The last few months, I've been creating a lot of AI music with these AI tools, And if you'd ever told me that AI music could make you cry, I wouldn't have believed
Mhm.
you. But I've cried more to more of these AI songs than I can, you know,
Uh,
and I'm not embarrassed to admit it. So
yeah,
it's very cool.
yeah. I mean, yeah, music is so powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. I play the piano. I play the piano
Mm,
not particularly well, but I do play. It's going to sound so ridiculous. I do play Chopin,
mm,
which sounds really, really impressive, but it's actually not as impressive as it sounds.
mm,
Um, and the first time I played this one particular piece, I just played the first line and I just started crying. Like,
mm,
how did he know? Like, this man was a genius. How did he know that this combination of notes was going to go straight to the soul
mm.
and heart and everything, like the
Yeah.
fiber of your being? Um, it was just incredible.
Yeah. 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 That's what I've been finding is music just has a way of kind of circumventing the intellect. Like it gets
Yeah,
right into the deepest parts of your soul with no resistance.
yeah,
So it can be a very powerful medium.
yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing what you come up with from
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I'll share. I've actually been, well, creating songs inspired by these conversations. So you probably have a song coming your way. Um,
Great. I look forward to that.
um, yeah. Another, would you happen to have another example? Maybe the thing I'm that keeps coming up for me is in your relationship work. Like, is there, I don't know, like a universal insight or something that you see over and over again with couples that makes a real big difference with them?
Um, what I see is that people are misunderstanding each other. There's usually one member of the couple who's kind of dominant.
Mm,
And what I'm seeing, and obviously, we attract people who are similar to ourselves, I guess, in terms of clients. And so a lot of times I'm seeing couples who are kind of similar to me and my husband.
mm,
Um, but I'd say that we were maybe a little bit further ahead. And so I make sure that the one who does all the talking, I'll kind of make sure that they learn to listen to their partner, and
mm,
that the one who never speaks is able to speak, And sometimes I'll see couples who they'll come on, like if they're on online, they'll come in and I'm telling them, I'm asking them to sit at the same laptop,
mm,
and they can't even look at each other, you know. Um, and then I'll ask them to do something, some exercise or whatever. And I'll say, okay, right, turn your chairs so that you're facing each other.
mm,
And then they're still like, I'll ask a question or something, and or I'll get the spouse to, or the partner to ask a question, and they'll turn to me and answer the question. I was like, no, no, don't tell me,
mm,
tell your partner, and I'll even turn off my camera
mm.
so that I'm just out of the picture,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and that really helps, because one of the first things I do is I get them to fill in a questionnaire, and it asks things like, well, what did you think of so and so when you first met them?
Mm,
And why did you think this was the person you wanted to spend your life with? And so they're saying all these positive things. And I'm also asking for the negative things, but I
mm,
don't share that with them in the session we do together. I'll just say, oh, well, what's your answer to why you married her? Or
mm,
then so the partner's listening and going, oh, I never knew you felt that way about me,
mm.
you know. So it's instead of saying, let's talk about your problems, it's like let's talk about what was actually right in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it similar, like you mentioned in the earlier story about working with somebody for a year and what do they want to create? Is that kind of the basis for working with couples too? Is what do they want to create with their relationship together?
Um,
Or is that only after you resolve a certain amount of
yeah, there's a lot of
animosity and
there's
stuff?
a lot of resolving, to be
Yeah.
honest. There's a lot of resolving.
Yeah.
and just learning to listen and learning to support somebody when they've got a stressful situation at work or something like that. Just be a support. Don't side with the nasty boss,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, um, it doesn't matter if you think that the boss was right. At this moment you're here to support your spouse.
Mm,
You know, um, so it's always quite interesting.
mm,
Uh, and yes, I mean, I do some exercises that I will do with individuals as well.
mm,
For example, I have an exercise which is equivalent to the wheel of life
mm,
or the gap conversation that Carolyn Freya Jones has. In my case, it's a house. We have the room for improvement,
mm,
and sometimes I'll say, well, okay, this room represents your family or whatever. What do you see in it? And they'll just start crying,
mm,
and all this stuff comes out and their partner's just looking at them like, oh my gosh, I never knew they were carrying all this.
mm, yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the if all they do is verbalize what they've been keeping inside for so long, that alone can make a huge difference for people. And then if you're with your in that situation with your partner or spouse and they hear it, they have realizations and insights and things that they had no idea was going on.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have a rule, like they're not allowed to criticize each other.
Mm,
They're only allowed to express things like if they have a need. Often people express a need as a criticism.
right.
So I get them to express it in a way that has no criticism of the
Mm,
partner. Just say, this is what I need. I feel lonely or I feel overwhelmed or whatever it is.
yeah.
And then I get the other person to reflect back what they heard.
Mm,
And then often, let's be, I mean, I don't want to make too many generalizations, but
sure.
often, let's say the more masculine partner which might be the man and might not be the man,
Yeah.
will say, we'll try to fix them, you
Mm,
know, like, no, don't try and fix your partner, So I give all these kind of pre-frames first.
yeah.
You're not fixing your partner. You're just listening, you're reflecting back, telling them what you hear,
Mm,
and you're empathizing with them, you're validating them. Because often people say, well, you shouldn't feel like that.
yeah.
Total invalidation of their feelings, which feels like an invalidation of them.
Yeah.
So, validating their feelings, empathy, which is like sitting with them
Mm,
in their pain. And then kind of coaching them, like getting the partner to coach them, like, what do you think would be a great solution?
mm,
Something like that.
yeah.
Never giving advice, never just telling them, do this.
Yeah.
Um, until if they say, well, I just don't know what to do, then you can say, okay, would you like me to give you some advice or some feedback or
Yeah.
something like that? And then they say yes,
Yeah.
but never imposing it on the partner.
Mm, I like that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
if
if
there
that
was,
answers the question or not, I can't
yeah,
remember what the question was.
yeah. If there was one thing you'd want people to take away from this conversation, what would that one thing be?
The one thing that I would want people to take away, or just to know, is that you are loved.
Mm,
We are all loved, worthy of love, made of love, made by love,
mm,
through love, our parents' love, hopefully,
mm,
and for the purpose of love. And we are love. That's who we are at our truest essence.
yeah. I'm just imagining what a much different place the world would be if we all knew that and were
Yeah,
that more
yeah,
often. Yeah, wonderful.
exactly.
If our listeners want to find out more about you or get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Facebook and LinkedIn, just under my name, Fiona Pimentel.
Okay.
Message me.
I'm excited to share this video with people. There's a lot of great stuff in here.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed our conversation, enjoyed meeting you. Um, you've got,
Me too. I'm excited. I'm just excited to hear this song. That's what
yeah,
I'm excited about.
yeah. I'm excited to create it. So we'll see. We'll see what inspiration unfolds. I'm sure
Thank
our
you.
paths will cross again, but yeah, this has been great. Great getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah, great to get you to know you a little bit, and thanks again for having me.
Awesome. We'll see you again soon. Take care.